So now I'm going to show you the king's discipline of the kitchen, and that's a beef jus, a very, very strongly reduced beef sauce that's just very intense in flavor. And when you have that, your guests will be amazed. Well, for that we need onions, which I have already peeled. Carrots, celery, leeks, garlic, a whole bulb, a bit of rosemary, tomato paste, bay leaves, peppercorns, sunflower oil, red wine, and beef bones. Chopped up by the butcher. And it's best if you also tell the butcher that you want meaty bones. The bone itself has little flavor. The meat around it gives the sauce its taste. There. You can simply roast the bones, the beef bones, in the pot. I really like to do that in the oven because it's just a bit less complicated. I line a surface with baking paper for that. I use baking paper mainly to avoid cleaning, since things stick otherwise. And then I fill these trays with the beef bones. All right, here's another one. So they're evenly spread out, allowing heat to reach all areas. And then I slide the bones straight into the preheated oven as hot as it gets. It's now at 275 degrees. I leave them in until they reach a deep dark brown color. Now we chop the vegetables, a classic mirepoix of leeks, celery, carrots and onions. Just cut them into big pieces. Next, we remove the celery's top and bottom. Then we peel it a little bit around the outside. Like this. Then we cut it into cubes. Size isn't important here since it's just a stock. And the roasted vegetables will be taken out later. Just leave the skin on the carrots, that's all flavor. It doesn't matter at all. Cut into large pieces. Like this. And the onions, well, just roughly as well. Onions are very important for the base. Especially with beef, you get a really good flavor the more onions you add. So, now we're going to get ourselves a bowl here. I'm going to wash it again now because the leek is still a bit dirty. And then we'll saute it right away. There. Now we take a big pot and we pour in a good splash of oil. Now we'll saute the mixed roasting vegetables. They're called roasting vegetables because they really need to be sauteed very, very well. They should be properly roasted. That's what gives the flavor later. So, don't roast them too lightly, but really get a good color on them. That definitely takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It's important to get a good color on them, just like with the bones. Exactly, a nice color, so that your sauce will also turn out brown and get a nice consistency and a beautiful color. I'll sizzle this now and show you what it looks like soon. Now we have the vegetables nicely sauteed until dark here. They've gotten a beautiful color. Now first we'll add the tomato paste. Tomato paste is very acidic. Tomatoes actually have even more acidity than lemons, for example. Fascinatingly. That's why you always have to saute the tomato paste a little bit so the acidity goes away. That means, briefly, when the vegetables have a nice color, add the tomato paste and let it fry a little bit with them. Don't worry about the strong color, even at the bottom of the pot. It doesn't matter. The sauce will cook for a long time, blending together and giving it a nicer color. So now we'll add some red wine to it. So generously. Then we add 2 bay leaves and a bit of garlic. Just whole cloves with the skin on, that's just for the flavor. There. And a bit of rosemary, a few peppercorns there. Now we'll fill it all up with water. All the way to the top, we'll fill it up with water. And this sauce cooks for a very, very long time. It definitely cooks 5 or 6 hours, so it takes a lot of energy. But what you get in the end is simply unbeatable. So you have a sauce for the meat that otherwise nobody else has. So you'll really notice the difference between the packaged sauce and the sauce you've cooked here. Try it for yourselves. Back into the freezer again. 1 or 2 tablespoons per steak portion, and this thing just tastes absolutely amazing. A little bit more. There. The bones need about 15-20 more minutes and should have a strong color. I'll show you. They go in there and then everything gets reduced over several hours. And then it's a great sauce. I'll show you that in a moment. The bones are ready now. We'll take them out of the oven. They have a beautiful color. Let me show you that again real quick. Aha, nicely brushed. Now we just put them in there. Don't pour in the fat. We don't need the fat in there. In the broth. Careful, it's very, very hot. The oven was at 275 degrees after all. There. You can see the baking tray mostly stays clean. Whenever something gets really dirty, like this tray, I put aluminum foil or baking paper underneath. After roasting, I just remove it so there's less to clean. So, then we have one more. Add that to it. And then we fill the pot with water again and bring it to a boil. It's very important that at the moment when we bring the liquid to a boil, we skim off the foam, because we want to achieve a clear jus again, and we can only do that if we remove the impurities that rise to the top when boiling. So, now we'll add a bit more water. It's okay to use plenty of water. Fill the pot up with water. It takes an immense amount of energy, that's true, but the taste is simply unforgettable. You really can't compare this sauce to anything else, which is why it's worth it since you rarely make it and need little. But you'll see from this huge pot that's sitting there now, how much is left at the end. That's probably barely half a liter, if that. Yeah, so it's really a lot of work, but that's the high art. It happens. And really, as I said, please be careful about that. When that thing starts to boil, immediately turn down the heat. It shouldn't boil, right? And then immediately skim off the foam and slowly reduce it over low heat for 5 or 6 hours. Here's what that looks like. It's time. The sauce is just starting to boil, and this is what I mean. This foam must be removed. We'll just take that off now with a ladle along the edge, and then like this. And we'll take it for ourselves. here into the bowl. And now we have to skim it off once or twice an hour. And the way the sauce is boiling right now, that's exactly how it should boil. No more than that. Just enough so that it's bubbling a little in one spot. And now simply stay calm, be patient, and let it cook for 5 hours. Here we are again. The juice has now cooked for about 5 hours, and we've skimmed it over and over again. It's really important to do that to keep the impurities out of the sauce. Now we're going to strain it, and then we'll do it again. So first I pour off the sauce, then I add some water again and pour off the water as well. I'll show you how to get the most flavor from these bones now. For a sauce like this, I really recommend that you get a straining cloth. But if you don't have one, a clean dish towel will work too. One that you've washed well, that doesn't taste or smell too much like detergent. You don't want the sauce to be affected by that. I have a straining cloth here from the store. It's simply a fine meshed linen cloth, and now you can use it for the sauce. Pour it through. I even use it double. To really get all the impurities out, we pour the sauce in there. Carefully. And you can already see that there's not much left from that crazy batch. But that's the goal of the kitchen. You don't need much of it afterwards. There. And there's still an incredible amount of juice in here, so I'm just going to add some more water and then let the water cook out again later. So to speak, that's just to get the rest of the flavor out. Stir it once carefully. Overstirring causes the same issue, with the cloudiness occurring. Like this. Through the sieve. Wait a second, with the ladle. This will take a little while. I'll show you what it looks like once it's gone through. So, now we've strained it. There's really not much left. That used to be a much bigger pot. Now we'll cook it down to about a third. As soon as it swells up again, skim the fat from the top. We don't want it in the sauce. I'll show you if you make a few circular motions with the ladle here. Then the fat moves to the side, and then just go against the direction and skim off the fat a little bit. Skim it off like this. Exactly. You can also just let the sauce cool down at the end. Then the fat will settle on top, and when it's cold, you can simply remove it as a solid layer. That works too. Up there is just pure fat. The orange part and below the brown part. That will be our jus. That's a basic sauce you can enhance in many ways. When we've reduced it, we'll thicken it just a little, and then we can add some thyme, some rosemary. You can add rowan berries, pickled ones, or you can simply give it the flavor you want, add a bit of caraway. And just because it's a beef, it just doesn't mean you can't use it with lamb as well. For example, I wouldn't do it the other way around. I wouldn't use the lamb just for a beef roast or for a beef chop. But the beef is actually, right? The beef jus is actually a versatile sauce for everything, but unfortunately it needs to cook for 2 more hours. I'll show you how to finish it. See you soon. We've now reduced the sauce down really to about a third. I'll pour it into another container now so you can see it better. Good. Now I have here a bit of starch mixed with water, or you can also mix it with red wine. That gives it a bit more thickness. Very carefully, just shouldn't be too thick, you don't need to thicken it. I always add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of this dissolved starch, then put it in and stir it carefully. First 1 spoonful, then let it simmer a bit, and then add another spoonful. So you can really see what happens. If you add too much, you'll need to dilute the sauce later. And that doesn't make any sense at all, because we've been reducing it for ages, so we definitely don't want to dilute it now. So, as you can see, what a silky shine it has, what a great color. There's no salt in it, yet it still tastes very strong now. And it's simple. The sauce is perfect. Add rosemary, then finish with a cold butter cube before serving. This sauce, it'll definitely be enough for you. Well, usually 2 tablespoons for the meat, plus 2 to 3 tablespoons. It's a very strong essence. You don't need as much sauce as with roast pork. Don't drown everything in it. Use sparingly. Now you know why chefs are always so stingy with their sauce? The consistency is enough. Yeah, as you can see, it's already rising nicely. We don't need any more consistency than that. I have another jar here. That's exactly where I'll pour it in now and let it cool down. And that's all there is now. This amount is all that's left from that huge pot of water. So you can imagine the power in that sauce, right? Alright, enjoy. Make this sauce. It's always good and pairs with any dish. Have fun with it.